All right, everybody. Thank you very much. Getting started with episode 12 of the CX Experience with Cloudlinx here. My name is Frank Wassenberg, and very excited today because we have a partnership that's been blossoming for a while with Noble Systems, and they were good enough to send us Brett Brosseau, um, who's told me his name 4 times, and I think I butchered it again, so he'll have to smack me in the head when we get this done. But they were good enough to send them to us because some of the product lines that they're launching are exciting, especially in the gamification sector. So, Brett, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah, no, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Um, getting set up. I think I probably caused you some headaches, so I think we're even on the name pronunciation piece.
we It's always fun trying to get the audio to sync up. It sounds like you can look like a bad Godzilla movie in about 3 seconds if you do this wrong. It's really bad.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
But we're good, man. Listen, I appreciate it. It's no small feat. I can imagine with everything going on in today's world, you guys are probably just super busy with getting people trained up on the system, showing people what the systems are, probably condensing funnels a tremendous amount from sales that were long way off now are probably coming to fruition right now. So I really appreciate the time even getting you on the calendar.
Yeah, no, Noble Systems it's fortunate because you know the they have multiple products. It's not just gamification. So what we did primarily initially was help a lot of companies get disparate, get working from their home. So helping migrate them from an on-premise type of operation where they can now kind of business continuity, people working out of their homes and getting their phone system set up because Noble provides a very robust contact center um, calling platform. Um, and then, from there, once business continuity kind of got set up for most of these companies, it was now, well, how do we manage these folks? How do we motivate these folks? So that's where the gamification piece came in, the employee engagement suite came in, and it's been gangbusters, frankly, since really the last probably 8 to 10 weeks. So yeah, it's been fantastic.
You've obviously seen just an increase in the amount of people looking to implement gamification in the last 8 weeks? Is it a function of they were losing track of motivation or engagement, or just something that they wanted to always implement and now they saw it as an opportune time to do so? Where did you see the motivation coming?
Well, I think the primarily, when again, like I was saying, you're so comfortable in an on-premise working environment where you have your people right there under your nose. You take a lot for granted, right? You have your whiteboards where you can walk over and put a notice of the day, or you want to do a leaderboard or make an announcement. I can go right on a whiteboard. People walk by it when they come in, they leave on break, they see it, etc. Um, Same thing with coaching. If you're in have a call center, and you know you got an agent who's not performing, you can yank them off the phone, take them into the break room, um, and counsel them, train them. I mean, you go right down the list in terms of the management activities, particularly in and around motivation and keeping people highly engaged in work. We don't think about it, but when you're in the work environment, you got colleagues next to you. It's easy to lean back in your chair and say, "Hey, how you doing? How do you solve this problem? What's happening on the weekend?" That social connectedness um, is is important. So is the collaborative piece. Furthermore, energy feeds energy. So when you're in an environment where, especially in a call center, when it can be buzzing, and whether it's sales or customer service, there's a certain atmosphere that can also get you pumped up, keeps you motivated. Well, when you're at home and you might be sitting in a linen closet or on the couch or, in a makeshift kind of an office, you don't have, that energy. You don't have the ability to kind of stay connected to your peers so easily and kind of, feel like you're part of a community, and for managers who are so used to being able to, counsel a person so easily because they're over their shoulder. Now, how do you do that? How do you go ahead and coach someone on whatever it is they're trying to achieve. So I think what's happened is once these organizations set up their business continuity and they go, okay, we got the phone system in place, we got security, everyone's got a data connection. Then it was like, okay, now how do we manage to organizational objectives? And that's where I think the gamification piece just got popped, because then, particularly if you have a solution that is robust and wide, where you can handle the coaching, you can handle the learning management system, you can handle, all your competitive, your social components. It makes it super, super easy, and you don't have to search for disparate solutions. So a lot of companies have realized that. Of course, if you're a company who is just figuring out how to get your people paid, right, you're probably not there yet. So we've had companies come in stages, and I really think it's business continuity is the priority. And once that happens, and they realize they're going to be okay, then it's giddy up and let's figure out how to manage our business effectively.
Yeah, I think when you look at this, it's a great point that you bring up, because we've kind of called this, not even jokingly, seriously, kind of like the world's largest case study for working at home, right? I mean, there's never been a larger case study where you have more hurdles in people's place, in the way of people succeeding, than you do today. You've got some fear, you've got their kids are home, you've got uncertainty about where where job security is for a lot of people, and now once that goes away, if people are still at a certain level of productivity, it's just going to be fantastic when this is all over to prove out what this case study really looked like. But and we've seen the same thing for people. We've seen them come back and say, it's all hands on deck to get us going. We want to get everybody out of here, and we want to get everything set up. And then IT went crazy, saying we got to get cameras, we got to get the everyone's home network up and running. And then once there was a little bit of a slowdown, they had the chance to look at this and say, okay, let's catch our breath. And now let's get our people back on board. Let's get our people back into that community feeling. Let's get people back into that motivated feeling. And it was, I can imagine you saw a lot of that in a big burst once that kind of everyone caught their collective breath and really looked at this from a different angle.
Yes, because the other thing too is because this coronavirus put this pressure on organizations in terms of what they had to achieve and their financial health. Naturally, they're looking for any kind of edge that they can get. So, that could be an immediate production. So let's say you are in a call center that gets paid on an hourly basis, or you get paid on a CPA. And then there is the piece where maybe you're servicing clients and you're trying to meet SLAs. There's a gamut of results that organizations are, now we have a truncated kind of time frame for the end of the year. You have quotas, you have business expectations, and a lot of them are looking for that rocket fuel. And ultimately, what that is that's the employee experience. You got employee A who's like sitting at home. It's the reality. They're working. And if they're boohoo humbug, that's going to directly impact results. And there's no way organizations can risk that. So what they're thinking is, and it's right, is they want the employee that's at home that is so emotionally charged up, loving what they do and appreciating the job, and just trying to knock it out of the park every day and putting out that discretionary effort. So whatever the engagement platform it is, it's more, I think, organizations, it's made them take an inventory of, hey, we were not throwing the proverbial football where the market, the trends were going. We were throwing it where people were standing. And so because of that, we were caught flat-footed. So like even in product development, you don't ever want to be developing, for today, you want to be developing in the future. And in business, I think a lot of organizations were just dealing with what was right in front of them, and it caught them off guard, and they do not want to be there anymore. They are hell bent on making changes and starting to throw the football, where in fact the runner is going. And I think it's going to set them up for tremendous future success. And we're already seeing it. We're already seeing it with our clients who've been able to onboard, get up, and now they're highly motivated at home. They're starting to see unbelievable results. So yeah, it's been a controlled busy for us. We're fortunate in that our background, Noble Systems, Jim Noble himself, he was in the call center business. He had call centers. So particularly when we're dealing with the call center industry, we have just super amount of knowledge, across the spectrum of our employees, just because it's in our fabric. So it's kind of positioned us well to really help and even consult with organizations to help set them up properly during this pandemic.
So you bring up 2 points there that I want to kind of explore. One, almost the false start kind of mentality, and where companies are trying to go and how to avoid that kind of goof up in launching a system like a gamification engine. And then you bring up the second part, which is where you guys are taking this product line into your overall product set, right? And where you guys are taking the overall engine here. But maybe we can look down the first one is you, you got a lot of businesses now that are saying, this is something we need, this is something we want to do. Maybe they fast start it, maybe they don't, but there's a lot of room for error when it comes to a motivation tool like this. There's a lot of room for error when it comes to everyone being away, everyone being dispersed, and you've never done this before. Where
Yep.
do you see some pitfalls for companies that they need to be aware of to avoid a false start? That's a dangerous thing for people to consider.
Yeah. The classic fail is really is not starting with the end in mind. I mean, whether it be our personal life, professional life, this does not change, and it's really important with gamification. So gamification, what ends up happening is that people can get drawn into the really sexy features. That's interesting for sure, but ultimately everybody's organization is different. So what I see a lot is organizations that want to kind of truncate the process. You absolutely have to start at the end. What is it materially you want to achieve? So sometimes we'll get people who say, listen, we want to change morale. And that's great. And it will change morale. However, and it will change it for the better, but ultimately changing morale is the catalyst. Engaging your people is the catalyst for achieving whatever it is, whether it be I want to make more money or keep more of what I make. That typically is where it leads you. So, understanding what that destination is, and then who do you want to play? Who are your players? Who are your employees that you want involved? Because organizations have different divisions, and those play a different role in helping the company achieve whatever targets. If I'm a product company, I may have a sales division where there's a clear direct line to revenue.
Yeah.
But I also may have customer service where our path to revenue is through an amazing customer experience, because that helps with LTV, referrals, holistic purchases. So once you determine who the participants are, then it comes down to really understanding the hierarchy of KPIs or data, because clearly not all data is equal. And what companies do, we see it, is they want to include all kinds of data. And what that does is that can dilute the focus of the employee. So if I'm supposed to be focusing on the most important activities or objectives that help my company achieve whatever it is they want to achieve, anything else I include only dilutes the focus. And what happens is you don't end up creating that new normal. Now, new normal is being used a lot today, but I've always referred to in the past as really new normal in performance. So, we were
The new
company.
expectation, the new belief, what you're trying to foster for people. I get it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I think just simply defining those three buckets is probably the three most important things. But instead, we see companies will start much further down without the destination and say, and they may want to focus on a particular KPI that doesn't have real relevancy in terms of the highest hierarchy in terms of what it is they really want to achieve. And if they're trying to validate an employee engagement platform on an ROI basis by not identifying those KPIs properly, then it will be a miss and you will not find success with it. And it's probably will create apathy among managers, and then it will end up flaming out. So I think that's probably the biggest challenge or the biggest opportunity for improvement when it comes to onboarding, an employee engagement platform like a gamification software.
Sure. And now, if you take a look at that, I imagine when you guys start leveling out and you're going through your implementation, there's got to be a lot of personality things that you're considering as well for people. I mean, we've all run sales teams in some way, shape, or form. And you have a 10-person sales team. You launch a sales contest, 5 people don't care about it. 4 people kind of look at it like, eh. And the one person that knows he's going to win or she's going to win anyway is like, I've got it covered. I love this contest, right? So how do
Yeah.
you guys level set kind of the personality conflicts of some people aren't motivated the same way as other people are?
Yeah. So really, there's two things there. One is the kind of the player type. Like you said, there are some people who are classified as a personality type in terms of the game type kind of a player. Are you, whether you are a socializer, whether you are a killer, whether you are an achiever. Those are in and around where are categories that as an individual you will gravitate towards the type of mechanic that motivates you the most. So you definitely want to make sure you engage with a platform that's robust enough, that has a plethora of game mechanics that touches on those type of traits. And so the other thing is that you'll have in a call center, you'll have your top 20, middle 60, and bottom 20. And if you have a platform that is tailored to just your top 20, it'll be a fail because ultimately you don't target your top 20 with gamification. You go after that middle 60. Middle 60, if you're able to affect it, it'll change your culture. And as a consequence, it will certainly change the economics of your business without a doubt. Where you risk your top 20, and you need to include those, is when you have a high level of voluntary turnover among that group. Basically, I don't want to work for you anymore. I want to work for the customer or the provider across the street, and they're one of your top producers. So that's what I would say about that particular group. And like in our platform, how we offset that, because for those who have run call centers before, you're always dealing with symptoms and you're always reacting. So a lot of times, like in a contest, as an example, you may want to, oh my gosh, we're down on SPH. We got to light up a contest. And you go in and you create it, and there's not a lot of math behind it in terms of trying to create equity. You're just trying to get it out the door, and maybe you'll throw a spiff at it. What we do in our platform, so every data point that we get, we will create a most improved option. So as an example, you're a top 20 rep, I'm a middle 60 rep. Maybe it's a duel, and my manager wants me to go out and duel someone on sales per hour. If I duel you on the highest sales per hour, you're probably going to, take me down because you're a top rep. But if I duel you on most improved, now I got a legitimate shot, because now we're competing on the delta of improvement. We do it where we look at historical data, and then we basically create the ratios. So it's a rolling number. So the operator of the platform, the game masters, they don't have to create those ratios. It's all done. So you can light it up like that, create equity like that. And what it does to the top performer is, now if it's a transparent system where optics are high, then of course everyone's watching. And we all know that if you're a top 20 person, you certainly wouldn't want to lose to anyone perceived below you in status. And so you're going to really try hard. It's going to elevate your game too. So that's one of the ways that we go about and create equity across the spectrum of performers, and in terms of appealing to the wide variety of player types, having a really robust platform, a social component, the ability to be able to compete, variety of features that allow all player types to be highly motivated and engaged.
I love the most improved aspect of it. I think that's one of the missing factors that a lot of people, sales managers, call center managers, they forget. You've got to figure out a way to pull those people that know they're not going to beat that guy or gal. I'm not going to beat them. But if I go up 10 units to their 2 units today, I've won. And that's a big
That's
motivating
right.
factor. That stokes competitive juices in somebody that doesn't isn't usually competitive.
That's right. Absolutely.
And now, will you look at a company, because we sat with a company that does workforce management a couple weeks ago, and we had a good conversation with them. And they said one of the struggles that they were finding with their clients was that they didn't know how to adopt best practices. They didn't know how to build the workforce management system the way that it needed to be built. And as a result, it was being used, but it was like an old phone system for 30 years ago. It was like you're using it, but you're missing out on 90% of the features. Now, will you guys come in and kind of like a managed service offering, come in and help these people get going, help them roll it out, something more advanced than just professional services to get the thing launched? You'll come in and help them?
Yeah. So you're right. I think, the software is only as good as what you're using.
Yeah.
Um, and so when we have a client, they go through the whole implementation. They go through a really robust training process. They get certified. We actually will help identify a game master for our clients, someone who is going to be the owner of the ROI, ensure that they get the ROI internally at the client. And they'll also be the resident expert for the client. And then we have options like we can provide a gamification success director who are our experts who will help focus on your business to make sure that that you are constantly having success. Basically, it's your consultant internally that really helps you be successful and ensures that you as the customer are winning. And so, because we firmly believe if you win, we're going to win. And so we're really we're very very brash on that, because that's a big belief in terms of how we grow our gamification customer footprint. The other thing too is we give a playbook. So you will get a playbook day by day how you're supposed to use the software and achieve. And again, it all lines up to what you want to achieve. So here's a good example. Let's say you are a collection agency, and ultimately, you have your goal is, hey, I want to make more money, and how you make money is you collect more payments. So you're saying, listen, Brett, I want to increase our gross dollars collected, and so what we do, we start the process with you, and naturally, you're thinking, okay, payment conversion, where your RPC's at, where's your conversion at, where your payments per hour, where's your promises. But here's the thing. I think we're one of the best at this, and this is what I learned early when I built the platform, is you start at the very beginning and you look at the most critical KPIs, and we build all this in to the playbook, because where we are starting is, are your people in the parking lot on time? Are they swiping in on time? Are they logging into the system on time? If you don't do those things, you can't collect any payments. So that's the other piece with us, is that I think we understand this incredibly well. So our customers get tremendous advice, and they set up the platform properly. Additionally, so keeping it fresh is super important. You got to keep your gamification platform fresh. And so we have our best practices, our strategies to help you, and we will help you ensure that the gamification platform does not stay stagnant. So, our customers, our customers for a very, very, very long time, and they constantly increase their footprint. So I think that is a great testament to the effectiveness and the staying power. I just did a webinar with Money Management International, and the results they got 15 months ago, they have maintained those results. So their new normal has stuck while they've increased that footprint. So that's pretty hard to do.
Really hard.
But yeah, and that's so again, I think it's a testament to how we help our customers be successful, short term and long term.
Yeah, and I think if you look at it again, to your point earlier in the conversation, I don't want to pigeonhole you guys into a gamification engine. You've got the full blown contact center, so you're looking at how this thing is orchestrated within the system, how it's pulling in omni-channel services, how it's pulling in the call data, how it's doing the entirety of the client. Let's just call it the client journey for a simple point. But you're orchestrating that all within the gamification engine. So you're looking at this as something a little more robust than just, hey, this one piece of the pie, which I think often people miss, because just as deadly as looking at one KPI is just looking at one segment of your business. You got to look at this thing as a whole point and give rewards and benefits across the platform for people. Now, if we go back to earlier, you were going down a road that we took a right turn at a little bit, but where do you see this going across the enterprise as a segment for people? Where do you see gamification being in 2 years for enterprises?
Yeah, so I think I think gamification, the success of it, the sustainability is going to be largely dependent on how smart it gets. You know, it used to be points, badges, leaderboards. I mean, that no longer is. I mean, people, we're beyond that.
Yeah.
So the value, when you look at, you mentioned Noble's other products, and because gamification is agnostic, it sits, so whether you're a Noble customer or not, it can sit on top of your stack. Gamification's role in the technology ecosystem is to play with the other data sources, because the other data sources are capturing what has happened. And what you're doing with gamification is you are changing what you want to happen next with that data. So at the hands of the individual employee. So over time, what's going to happen is you're going to find greater integrations. It's going to get smarter. It will end up leveraging historical data. I mean, I talked about how we leverage a little bit on Most Improved. We do the same thing with normalization, but it will be in a place where data that has happened previously will guide game mechanic decisions in the future, whether that be coming off of employee surveys, whether that be coming off of the customer experience itself. Maybe that will actually happen in real time, where the experience that is being captured as and when the conversation is happening with a customer or interaction. So there won't be necessarily a post type of interaction capture. It'll be during, and you'll be able to impact that with gamification as the actual interaction is happening. And I think that's the direction it's going. I mean, you can see it today. I mean, whether you have a car and you're speaking into it and you're telling it, you're buying tickets, or like, it's just becoming more intelligent. We are no longer, gamification should never you shouldn't get into it just for points, badges, and leaderboards. It really is to leverage the existing data and take whatever is happening here and basically create a new scenario that's a winning scenario for you down the road on behavior change. And that's important. And I really think it will happen more in real time and be able to affect behavior and outcomes closer to when it's actually happening versus post. So that's my thought on that.
I agree. That's a good. You've got. I love how passionately you speak on this. This is fantastic. I mean, you can feel it in your voice how excited you are about the product and about what it's doing for businesses. It marries up to why we focus on contact centers, candidly, because we could sell MPLS networks till we're blue in the face, but it's not transformative for an organization the way a good experience is. It's just not. And this is just so much more engaging and so much more powerfully impactful for a customer. It's exciting to be a part of this change. And you go down the road of kind of the experience, right? And that's where I think a lot of people are looking at, especially now, because I want to look back in a couple months and I want to see, did people see an increase in SMS? Did they see an increase in voice? Where did they see increases coming from? Because people are looking for a different experience maybe now than 6 months ago, right? They may be looking for a different level of interaction now, especially with insurance claims, for example. Things are going wrong. I need to speak to someone as opposed to just chatting my answer through. Where do you see the experience in the workplace, and how do you see that being really leveraged now for the contact center and for a business? Because there's an amazing statistics that pop up all the time around the experience driving the interaction with the client more so than the bottom dollar price. How easy it is to work with a business. Where do you see that impact to a company?
Yeah, see, and I see the experience piece a bit disjointed. So with gamification, we often talk about the employee experience, and we work with clients who want to take the employee experience, and that experience is fantastic. That impacts some sort of customer experience score, and then what? So I really think where we're headed there. I don't think anybody is there yet. Um, I hope I hope we get there. But basically, it's it's tying being able to take the employee experience all the way through and associating some sort of business result. And I'm talking business result on as a destination. It cannot be managed. So as an example, a revenue. So here's a scenario. If I'm an agent and um, I have a first call resolution rate of 70%, and that yields a X, CSAT, okay, fine. But wouldn't it be great to use gamification to raise my CSAT to 75%, or sorry, first call resolution to 75%? That then yields a CSAT of, you know, on average 85%. That then is tied into um, a revenue outcome like referrals or more holistic purchases or a 3-year LTV. Because right now that is very disjointed, and
Yeah.
I don't see that as being a. I think that's an opportunity for organizations because then they'll truly understand the value of the actual employee experience and the customer experience, and that'll appear now as one. Because right now, like I said, it's very disjointed. And if we move in that direction, I think in what I was talking about earlier, how you'll be able to impact the experience as and when it's happening. I think that will complete the pictures and it will allow organizations to make purchases of that type of product very easily because they'll be able to associate a particular business result, revenue, to an actual experience that is happening starting at the employee level. And right now, I don't think that can be done.
So you think
So,
I mean, is it a miss of, is it a miss of the platforms available, or is it a miss of the management of the contact centers or the businesses to let people know downstream where their success is building into company success? Where do you think the failing is?
well, I don't know all the platforms in the market, but so if there's one out there, then I probably will look like a donkey. But I don't think there's a platform that offers that. But um, but here's what we get like fed a lot. Okay, gamification. I want you to show me an ROI on NPS. 'Cause NPS matters the most to us. If you can show us an ROI on NPS, then we can talk about maybe purchasing it. So no problem. We can talk about the employee activity that impacts NPS. So we'll say Mr. and Mrs. Customer. What impacts NPS? Well, NPS, let's just say average hold time or average answer time, first call resolutions, and abandon rate. Great. We can target those and we can improve those. But if you want to associate an ROI, tell me if we take that NPS and we increase it by 10%, if we increase your NPS by 10%, tell me how much more money you make, how many more referrals do you get? And what happens 10 times out of 10 is they're not linking that.
Yeah.
There's no link. So I think I just don't think, like, I don't think a lot of companies think about it. And I don't think if there is products, there's definitely not many of them that actually provide that, because you're talking about agent activity, you're talking about a customer experience capture, and you're talking about, a warehouse where that revenue could be, a CRM. Those have to all play very nice together. So that's an opportunity that I thought for a while needs to be filled. And once that happens, Katie, bar the door, because now people, like I said, will be able to associate a true return down to the experience level.
And that's directly brand impacting. I mean, that's the story right
Oh
there.
yeah,
And I think it goes back to your point about people have data, but sometimes don't even know what to do with the data, right? And they're not cross-pollinating that data to other departments and say, hey guys, we did this. What did you do with it? Where did you see an increase? Where are we seeing referrals? Because that agent may be like, hey, I'm kicking butt over here. Look at NPS is up 20%. What does that mean for me? And everyone's like, I don't know. I don't know where it goes
yeah,
from here. That's a
yep.
major fail. And that, if you see, I mean, you probably have a good case study where you've seen NPS go from whatever X to X plus 20%, right? And you've seen, we did this because of this, and people adopted it, and people managed it, and people lived
Yeah.
it. Do you have one that you could maybe just let us, let people hear, that's like, we did this, it resulted in plus 20 or plus 10 or whatever, but it was just such a win because the company adopted it, and it just, everybody fed off it.
We have several examples where organizations have knocked it out of the park. They really have, in terms of both top line and bottom line. I think what we're seeing a lot of now, in terms of additional kind of sweet milk, as I like to say, where the riches are being harvested, particularly on, if you look at BPOs, or you look at organizations in environments where unemployment is low. Organizations are now using our platform as a talent acquisition strategy, making it part of the center of their strategy, to say, hey, this is how we are different. We do this. We provide this gamification platform. It's a recruiting mechanism. So that's an interesting way they're using it. The other way, again, if you have clients and you are trying to either keep them, your fulfillment of SLAs is much higher chance to fulfill it, to satisfy SLAs, to get those contract renews naturally if your people are engaged. It's being used in that theater as well. And the other way it's being used is to solicit new customers. Because here's the deal. If you're a product company and you are looking to outsource, let's say, customer service, where are you going to put your work? Are you going to put your work with an organization who is doing run-of-the-mill stuff? Or are you going to put your work with an organization who is putting money or investing into the people? Because if I'm investing into my people and I'm soliciting you in your business to give it to me so I can service you, what I'm doing is saying, listen, this is how I invest in my people, because I want them to stay around. I know if they're excited, if they have an emotional connection with work where we're going beyond transactional engagement, they're going to stay longer. And when I have an employee stay longer, guess what's going to happen? They'll be able to rebuttal. They'll be able to sound more credible. They'll be able to provide that experience to your customers. That's far better, because I'm keeping the IP in the seats versus turning people over. So, outside of the regular, top line productivity, bottom line efficiency gains, we're also seeing a lot of organizations take it beyond that and be really creative, both from a recruitment standpoint and a business solicitation standpoint.
I love those 2 points. I mean, that's huge from a recruiting standpoint, because I think that's oftentimes an area that's missed, is how do you entice the right guys to you. But even from the business sales impact, I mean, that's something that, if you're leveraging this right, sales should look at this and say, this is why my agents are better. I love that. I think that's a fantastic
Yeah,
avenue to take that down the road, because it does. It
yeah,
just makes you as an organization more attractive to any end user to say, well, this is why we're good. Not
yeah,
necessarily our secret sauce, but this is what we're doing, and we're reinvesting backwards. We're not using this as we're not it's flipping on its ear. It's We're not using this as a means to hold our people accountable. We're using this as a means to really get the best agents in here, because they want to work for us in the region, especially in the BPO space, where you can take a BPO and you could say, they're the largest employer in that region, right? And there's a lot of people in there, because let's say labor is cheap in far shore and near shore, whatever the case may be. But those people are jumping ship because they want to go over there, because they're friends over there now, and they're doing they got what over there? You did what and you got what? That's cool. That's a neat way to recruit and gain clients.
yeah,
That's something that people
yeah,
you never hear about that in the conversation with people.
yeah, yeah,
Now, when you look at this and you say, all right, we're how many days into this pandemic are we now? We're whatever, 70 something days into this pandemic. If you go out 6 months, do you look at this as an opportunity where do you look at this, do you think you'll look back in 6, 7 months and say, wow, you know what? Cloud adoption as a whole, really, this was the inflection point. This was where it got adopted from the low double digits where it is today, the teens where it is today, and the contact center as a whole? Or do you think it's still going to take some time for people to grab it because of other factors? I mean, I look at contact center, and I'm still in that kind of shocked world that it's still only in the low teens in terms of overall adoption in the contact center space of cloud. Do you think this is an opportunity where you think you'll look back and say that was the time when it just took off?
yeah. I think so. I mean, I think fortunately for us, we have premise and we have cloud, and I think Jim made a good decision. They were primarily a premise-based company for a while, and then they started going into a cloud. It's the same
Yeah.
code base, and I think that's interesting and important, um, particularly when it comes to the just like we have different types of player types. I was telling you, we have different kinds of companies that are out there in different industries, and I think what you'll see is the traditional bank and financial institution, a lot of them may just stay premise. But
Yeah.
I think a lot of organizations, it's like, when you oftentimes the hardest part of making the decision is just to make the decision.
Yeah.
And but when you're forced and you finally do it, then you're like, oh, okay, this is safe. I'm okay. I think that is what's going to have happened to several of these companies. I think the number of customers that either go 100% cloud or some sort of hybrid solution, I think it's going to be off the charts. I think you will see a lot of that because they will also know that given a situation in the future, that again, they don't want to be throwing the football where the person is standing. And I think part of throwing it where the person is running to is having a flexible solution that allows you to be dynamic with a cloud solution with whatever platform you are using to run your business.
Yeah, we spoke to a partner of ours the other day who said, listen, it would have been great to have a cloud environment, but thank God we had our premises environment, because we unfortunately we let go of a lot of people, and we flatlined where our cost was. We knew where our expense was going to be, and for a short time we had a massive burst in cost because we had to get people home, but we knew what we were spending and it was already paid for. So we were able to absorb some of the financial hit of this situation right now without having to be holding to external contracts. So it's a different fluctuation in where you see your importance levels are now. So I appreciate where you're going with that, having both sides of the coin at Noble Systems, where you can look at prem and look at cloud-based services. um, where do you see you guys having an opportunity in the market next? Where do you see, because you've talked about the product needing to grow to certain areas, you talked about the business leaders needing to grow to use the product better. Where do you see gamification going in the next 6 months or the next year to really make an impact? Where do you see kind of your product roadmap at Noble?
Yeah, no, I think our roadmap will continue to get, well, I know it's going to be filled with being more intelligent. And more intelligent, I mean more connection. So internally at Noble, we have a plethora of products. So making sure all of those freeways are set up properly to be able to ingest the data, because gamification is nothing without the reliance on the data sources that it needs to power whatever objective they're trying to achieve. Second, it's going to be reducing friction in the software to make the software easier and easier to use. I mean, when customers take on gamification, what they're hoping for and what they come into is preconceived notion like, oh my God, we got another technology project to onboard. It's not. And so when I built the platform originally, it was supposed to be low friction, because the job of a call center operator or whatever the business at hand is to do that business. So it's built that way today, but it will get less frictionless over the next 12 months for sure. And then thirdly, the other piece is that we will be using historical data more to power the decision making within the platform, to make the manager, the supervisor's job easier, to make it less subjective and more objective by being able to look at what has worked in the past, so we know what game mechanic is most effective to impact a certain behavior at a certain time on a certain group or individual. Though that's a direction that we're going down significantly, and it will make our product very robust, very intelligent. So I would say on those three fronts, probably, increase our connectivity to ourselves and to others, make it less frictionless to our users, and to become more intelligent as it relates to leveraging historical data, powering decision making going forward.
Do you see AI getting lumped into that kind of bucket 3 for you a little more robustly? Everyone kind of talks about AI now, and no one knows how to do it really. I've heard a whole bunch of different stories on AI being the holy grail or the anchor around your neck.
Yeah, I mean, potentially. I don't think it's something in our 6 months or 12-month roadmap. Yeah. But I think there's opportunity there with gamification. But I also think, because unless it has a real purpose of creating a new normal inside of the platform, it could end up confusing a customer. So, we've had intermittent conversations about it internally, but nothing has been pen to paper yet in the direction we're going to go. Just some ideas.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, no, we've looked at a couple different suppliers who are leveraging AI differently, and with gamification, it's one of those interesting things, and it falls into QM and how you're automatically managing people's production and performances. So I always get curious when AI can get thrown around too easily or too dangerously, almost, because I like the way you go with it. You're saying it can be confusing. It can be confusing for a lot of people just to throw out something for the sake of throwing it out. Well, listen, I've gobbled up in the middle of your workday over an hour of time already. So I feel bad, kind of, the workload that you have on a normal day, where you already threw it out that you had so many webinars going on right now that you're excited to take almost a break from the webinars for you guys and have a not so salesy a day. But this has been great so far. Is there anything you want to kind of leave people with, man, that you think is good to think about? Hey, listen, if you're talking Noble, think this. If you're talking gamification, think this.
Yeah, I mean, what I would say is this, not to say too much, but I think the biggest takeaway leave technology aside for now, but the biggest takeaway with our businesses, and that including everyone that's involved from employee or owner level, I think the important takeaway is that we have to be better, and we have to be willing to trust ourselves a little more, that, hey, we know where this is going. I mean, I'm not a religious person, but Noah built the ark before the rain came. That's a story, at least. And so, I say that just because, whoever's listening to this.
It was like that in the Steve Carell movie too, man. Steve Carell did it too, man. So that's proof.
Yeah. Okay. But basically, and I think what what inhibits us a lot from taking action is just our own fear. And whether it be fear that we're in a group of people, we're talking about maybe product development or business strategy, and we're afraid to talk about where we think this is going. Well, those people right there, I really would like to encourage to speak up, because I think that type of mentality is going to help companies in the future, because we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. Um, and as long as we're making educated decisions and we're looking at all the possibilities, I think it's super important to do that and just encourage people, because at the end of the day, there are in this world, there are people like Noble Systems, and there are others too. We do a few things very, very well. We support the contact center industry and contact center solutions extremely well. But whatever your business is, there are good partners out there that can help you make those decisions and be part of your strategic journey. And I think if anything at all, this should have woken people up to make that commitment and to start planning out those strategies. So
Yeah,
that's about it, man.
that's a good way to close, man. This is the big wake up call. This is the big wake
Yeah,
up call, man. This is where everyone gets going. This is where the world kind of was shaken a little bit. Um, as we get going here, man, hopefully the contact center world opens up and it opens up safely. I think there's going to be some challenges for people. You guys are going to play a big role in that for people, because as everyone gets back into their offices, man, the social distancing stuff is going to be a challenge for people. Organizing these groups is going to be a challenging people. So I'm interested to see what we don't know about opening up in the contact center world, what shakes out here, and hopefully it's nothing too crazy that we can think about, man. It's going to be an interesting time. But Brett, man, listen, thank you very much. I really appreciate you.
absolutely.
Yeah, I really appreciate you taking the time today, man. This has been a great conversation. I'd love to have the opportunity to pull you back in a couple months and see if some of the things you were talking about kind of come true, and hear some different case studies, man.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me, Frank. I really enjoyed this. It's always good rapping with, you know, cool people and just people who care about the industry and what's going on. And so I appreciate having the platform. You're doing a great thing. And, you know, I look forward to staying connected.
Me too, man. I appreciate it, Brett. Thank you, everybody, for joining. It's another episode of the CX Experience.